welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Decoded. I'm so excited for you guys to meet Lisa Mitzel. She went to the University of Utah, like where I am right now, with my mother, and they both did gymnastics together. So that's how we kind of have that connection. But she has been doing some awesome things throughout her whole life that I'm so excited for you guys to just hear about and to possibly share as well. So, Lisa, how are you doing today?
I'm great. You caught me on a good day. I'm feeling perky.
Cool. Okay, we'll just hop right in. I love to hear the entrepreneur's story. So, like, just a basic background story of like where you came from, and then like how you got to where you are today. Those aha moments, kind of some breakthroughs that you saw that just kind of led you to who you are.
Okay, well, I think the reason your mom mentioned me and why we're even talking is because I didn't just go into gymnastics coaching after my career. I was an elite gymnast, and then at the University of Utah, we won 4 national championships. So I was really, really lucky to be surrounded by successful, driven, intelligent people. But I got the bug to be a writer, and I went back to school and got my master's degree, and that kind of led me into other directions in terms of starting a nonprofit years ago, and then in doing what I'm doing now, which I'll get into, but basically writing, speaking, coaching, and that kind of thing. And I have a couple books out, which we'll get to. I think I have a picture back here of them. But my story, I grew up in Southern California, and in Orange County, and I'm one of 7 children. I'm number 3. And so I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters. And, you know, I was thinking about this because you sent me some questions on email, what you usually ask. And I was thinking, okay, so what does that mean, like my young life, in terms of how that shaped me? And I wrote down that, you know, big family, faith. I grew up Catholic, and gymnastics. Those are the 3 main things I wrote down for kind of my young life. And what does that mean? The family, since we had so many kids and my parents were very organized, everything had its place in the house. We had chores every day, every weekend. You know, we swept out the garage and, you know, took everything out, put everything back. We weeded the yard, mowed the lawn, raked the leaves. we had a lot of structure. Everybody had a job in setting the table, pouring drinks for everybody, just very, very organized. So there was that structure. Everybody had an activity, and everybody got their homework done, and you had to sit down and do it. And you know, how somebody was taking care of a baby all the time, because it seemed like there was always a baby. Who's watching the baby? So there was a lot of structure and love, a lot of big family love and playfulness. So we all played together, and we were very imaginative, and we made up dances and plays, and sang songs and played games, lots of board games, which I'm not a big fan of compared to my siblings. They're like crazy. I'm mad about that. But that playfulness, I think, is so important. You know, we can get, as human beings, and especially as a driven person, and I'm wondering about you, Alex, is that we can get really, really task-oriented and achievement-oriented to show that we have value in the world. You know, we compare ourselves to other people. And I think that playfulness in my family, and going to church and holding hands and just taking deep breaths and feeling just the peacefulness inside of each other, you know, that this gave me this beautiful human connection in the form of family and faith, and knowing that being playful was an important part of life, of expressing myself, you know, climbing a tree, racing on my bike, hopping a fence, walking in the river, catching fish by hand with my brothers, you know, things like that. I think that we lose sight of how important that is in the sense of like being a balanced person, but also our own expression and creativity. So I'm still very much a little kid. So that was kind of the family, and then faith. We went to church every Sunday, um, and uh, and my mom would sit in the car with me, and we'd pray before I went to practice or especially a competition. And I'm a mental training coach, and I help athletes in particular, but I also consult coaches and work with parents on the inner journey. And the thing about the praying, it really wasn't, and now that I'm older, on a large scale of life, it's not necessarily for me following a religion or following a God. It's really about feeling that peacefulness inside of yourself, and doing what resonates with you on a good level. This is really good to do this. It feels right. It feels helpful. It feels kind. It feels patient. These are the things that, to me, that peaceful, loving feeling that I got with my family and through faith has really, really helped me in my gymnastics journey. And there's other things about that as well. Um, but then the gymnastics part, so family, faith, and gymnastics. I started when I was 8. I saw it on the Olympics in 1972. Olga Korbut was the darling, sort of like Simone Biles is now. Olga Korbut was the little rock star, sweetheart. Everybody just, loved her. She was a Russian. And I just kind of transmitted myself into the TV screen and imagined myself, like many little girls probably did, and that, I would go to the Olympics one day. So that sparked me. Of course, I was already, flipping upside down, and my parents couldn't control me. But my mom has stories. I guess I drove her a little bit crazy. But that's kind of fun, huh? So, but then I started in a Parks and Rec program, and quickly they suggested that I had some talent, and I learned quickly, and to put me on a team. So anyway, then I went through that path, and that became my life. So one thing that I think for people who are starting out is, what really triggers you in a way that makes you feel like, man, I want to learn that, or look at him, or look at her, like, oh, that's cool stuff. Whatever resonates with you on that emotional level, that is what is so cool in being alive. So when I was a kid and I was doing gymnastics, I would see these older girls who had so much expression in their dance, or they powered down the vault runway, or they just swung around the bars like you couldn't believe. And they just looked, like they were invincible. And I felt it. I just watched them and I go, oh, I think I could do that. I want to learn that. So I think that that's the beautiful thing about watching, observing, continuing to expose yourself to someone or something that inspires you. So I went through the path, through the low level, the intermediate level, the advanced level, up to elite, and then got a scholarship to the University of Utah. The thing that will transfer directly to what I'm doing today is that I had many falls in gymnastics. It's what do they call it? A fail-based sport. So you fail, you fall, you crash, you miss thousands and thousands of times. So you learn to be resilient. You learn to pick yourself up. You learn about injuries and pain and how to deal with that. Hopefully you have positive coaches and parents to, guide you through that in a positive way, instead of worry, worry, worry. You don't want to worry. It's all going to work out. And I did. I have best parents, Jim and Lori Mitzel. But I had a big crash, one when I was 15. And this actually, is horrible as it was at the time, this became one of the greatest gifts in my life. And I was tumbling across the floor, and as many people might see on TV, is that they do 2 flips in the air, right? Gymnast goes boom, 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 up in the air, flip, flip, right? Well, I got lost which means I didn't know if I was on the first flip or the second flip. I just got disoriented, which does happen in gymnastics, trampoline, different things, ice skating, probably when they're doing their triple loops. um, but I crashed. I opened up early and crashed on the back of my head, and I got knocked out. And so it was a big, freaky kind of a crash. So leap forward to going back to the gym after that, and I was getting scared, and I got more and more afraid and started losing my skills, meaning I was afraid at first, but then it was like an amnesia where I forgot how to do them. I forgot what it felt like. It was like it was erased from my mind. So it was horrifying because I lost about 70% of my skills in about a month. And I was training at the highest level. I was training to try and make the US national team. And all of a sudden, within a month, I was down like 3 or 4 levels, like a beginning competitor or less. And I was crying, and my coaches didn't know what to do. And so this led me to a sports psychologist. And this is the work I do today, which I had no idea I would do it. And Dr. Kenra Viza worked with Cal State Fullerton baseball and women's gymnastics. And that year that I had that accident, both of those teams won national titles, and he was kind of the glue. So I worked with him for 2 hours a day, twice a week. And if you know, when somebody goes to a therapist or a counselor or maybe a sports psychologist or somebody that's going to frequently help them for a month or 2 months or 3 months, usually you go once a week for 1 hour. I went twice a week for 2 hours. So I had 4 hours a week for almost 3 months. So I accumulated over 40 hours of intensive one-on-one work to, this is part of life, is to notice when you start to feel afraid, when you start to feel afraid. Oh my gosh, my heart's beating faster. Okay, my hands are getting sweaty, or I'm getting butterflies in my stomach, or, I feel like I'm just going to cry. You notice. And these are the skills, these are life skills that I have been able to master and teach. So this is when I was 15. And then I learned through that, I learned how to get calm, how to talk to myself in a positive way. What were the phrases that all of a sudden kind of got me stuck? Like, you can't do this, you're going to land on your head. You have to notice the negative things you say to yourself. And then you have to reprogram your mind with the positive. And then the greatest tool was imagery. So do you imagine in the work that you're doing or going to school at the University of Utah, go Utes, do you imagine like things about your life, maybe with a friend or going on a trip? Whatever you can imagine is so powerful. And so I learned to imagine my skills in slow motion, where I had control and where I felt safe. And this was like the gift that's just kept on giving to me and to other athletes that I work with and coaches. And so when you learn how to use your mind in these ways, you can do almost anything. You can recover, you can heal, you can understand and feel compassionate towards others who are hurting and who are scared. And you can actually share these tools. And so I learned it so intimately within the one-on-one, in person, with somebody who was so caring, and I trusted him. And I learned how to break things down to simplify. And I think as an entrepreneur, that's one of the tools that you always want to do, is because you can easily become overwhelmed, is you want to be able to break things down and simplify, take it one task at a time, trust the process. So that was my young life moving through that. I ended up getting over those problems, the major problems, within about 3 or 4 months, so that I could start competing again, but I wasn't quite all the way like 100% back. So it took me years to really feel normal again. But again, you got to surround yourself, or at least seek to be around the positive people, the people that believe in you, and the people that trust that challenges are here for you, not against you. Challenges are here for you to work through and learn about yourself, and learn new skills. So I was very lucky to have those people, my parents and my coaches and Dr. Ravizza. And at the University of Utah, we worked with Dr. Keith Henson, who was also a sports psychologist. And I've talked to many of my teammates. I don't remember. I think I probably talked to your mom about, why do you think we kept winning national championships? Because, you have your story and I have mine. But what was your perception? What did you think? And I think most, if not all of us, said Dr. Henson. He was the reason. Yeah. Yeah. So the sports psychology, mental training, using, the positive self-talk, how to get calm, how to have that center, even under pressure, is really important. So that's the young part of my story. Did you want me to go further or ask more?
Yeah, that was a great. I love how you explained just because I think a lot of people go through that in their life, whether that's later in their journey or earlier in life, but having that ability to really be self-aware of yourself and then of others is so important to just your mental health and growing yourself. So I love how you talked about that and how you really harness that at such a young age. So that was awesome. But yeah, I would love to hear a little bit longer on your journey as well, and then possibly some challenges and obstacles that you saw. Because you, like you said, you went over kind of that mental challenge when you were younger. Or were there any other bigger obstacles, struggles you had to go through to accomplish the things that you have today?
Yeah, many, many. Well, one thing leads to another. And this is one of the things that, again, for any of you young people out there or anybody going through like transitions, not knowing, or you're in a certain phase of your life and you have no idea what direction you're going in, or is really open up your mind to and your heart to being curious. So, and look for the open doors, look for the opportunities. So, because we always will have patterns in our life and opportunities come to us, and sometimes we just go, eh. So you have to see what are the patterns, what keeps showing up in your life. Since I was, accomplished as a gymnast, somebody pursued me to coach right out of college. And this is the one thing that I definitely am kind of, I have mixed feelings on, because it was a great opportunity, but I did not really have proper training or education as a coach. My degree was in psychology, so yay, that was very, very helpful. And I am a people person. I'm very much a communicator. I'm heart-centered. I'm a giving person. I'm very, like you said, self-aware. So that did help me a lot in my coaching. And I had all that sports psychology training, so that helped a lot. But there's so much to really learn and master in order to be an excellent coach. It's very complex. But the door opened. Somebody said, we'll give you a full-time job, benefits, you get to coach the optional team. I was like, yes. I mean, I did start out by coaching some of the younger kids, a recreation class for a short period of time, and then some compulsory kids, and then I got the older kids. But I was extremely, and I am extremely driven. And so here's one of the challenges is that often we think, well, that's how I would do it, so what's wrong with you? So here I am, 22 years old, and I'm coaching some little kids in this little group. One of them I remember vividly, she just seemed lazy. And I was like, what is wrong with you? And so I know I started to judge her. I started to judge this little kid. I don't think she was 7. She was like 6 or 7. And I was like, well, if you're not going to try harder, 10 push-ups. And I know she got down on the floor and she was probably, crying. It was hard. She wasn't strong. She was, and I had no empathy, no sympathy. I'm like, come on, keep going. So I was hard. I mean, that wasn't brutal, right? I wasn't awful, but I was too strict as a young coach. And I had that thought that if I could do it, you could do it. Or if I tried hard, if I worked hard, you should work hard. And this is not healthy. And it's a very immature view. And so what we can learn, and what I did learn, is what is your currency? What triggers you and sparks you and inspires you? And I think that as anybody who is managing people, anybody who is looking to sales, okay, anybody who wants to connect with somebody else who's in an influential position, don't make it about the work and the business. Make it about human connection. Make it about, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Not what's in this for me. And of course, that's a balance, because you don't want to just give yourself away, right? It is a balance. But when you're looking to motivate somebody, or you're looking to connect with somebody, you want to know what's important to them. And that's why I was asking you at the beginning, what challenges have you faced, or what's important to you? Why did you start this, and how was that helpful to you? And you were talking about, documenting your own journey and learning from that and sharing it with others and doing it on a local level, which is very authentic, right? We're not here to kind of like, do some big parade or sunshine or fairies and unicorns to everybody, right? But we're getting raw and real. And I think that what I learned as a young coach and kept wanting to learn was how to be positive. And that's such an easy word to toss around, be positive. But it's, how do you inspire somebody to reach the next step, to continue through a challenge, and knowing that it's going to be hard, okay? So it's, how can you inspire? And I think that's one of my strengths as a coach, and working with whether it's kids or adults, is really finding the heart and soul of the person, and being very compassionate with the challenges that they're facing, knowing that I have also struggled. So I coached for a couple years, and then I got into professional acting and dancing for a little bit. I was in Southern California, and I was asked to do this Kurt Thomas tour, and it was a professional tour, and we traveled around and put on these gymnastic shows with choreography and costumes and stuff. And so I did that because I was asked, and made a little bit of money, and it was fun because you're with other 20-year-olds, right, or 25-year-olds. And that led me to LA, and I did a little bit of profession. I was a very good dancer. I took a lot of dance, ballet, jazz, hip hop, and stuff like that. And then from there, then I met my husband in Los Angeles, and we moved up to Northern California, and I was offered the job at Stanford University. Well, I did coach again at another club, and then I got the job at Stanford. So there's a bunch of little things in between, right? Coaching, being a coach at Stanford University was huge, still impacts me today, because as you have been interviewing and talking to other entrepreneurs and people who have gone through struggles, but definitely are looking for the cutting edge, what's current, what's in the future, how do I want to meet people's needs, how do I want to do things at the highest level. Because obviously when you're bringing value, you want to bring something new, something very authentic that means something to you. And at Stanford, they're definitely about innovation and just highly driven student athletes, highly driven coaches. I was kind of swimming in the ocean of high achievers. And so I took advantage of that and got to know a lot of the coaches and asked them questions about what they did with their teams, how they faced certain challenges, injuries, how they worked with strength coaches, the sports doctors, sports nutritionists, sleep doctors, all kinds of things. And I was on a panel of to speak on ethics in sports. And so it really did take me up to a higher level. Like at the University of Utah, we were national champions. Every year I was on the team. And Greg Marsden was such a methodical coach, very well thought out, planning not just the gymnastics, but also the business and the marketing. And as many people who know anything about Utah gymnastics, they have huge competitions with 15,000 people. They fill a huge arena. They get more than basketball. And so he's very methodical. And I think what echoed and what made sense to me being at Stanford was that same kind of very professional approach to coaching. And in club gymnastics or club sports, whether it's soccer or swimming or gymnastics or anything, club level doesn't usually have that professional framework. Okay. It's more shoot from the hip, or there's a lot of volunteer parent coaches, or, that kind of thing. So I learned a lot about that high level of administration, recruiting, running camps, and doing all kinds of things to run a whole program that you would not necessarily do on the club level in an academic setting. Okay. So the NCAA and following all those policies and being under the umbrella of a university setting was very helpful for me in shaping the entrepreneur side person of me, right? So yeah, I ran the camps a couple years, and that kind of taught me more about working with office people and finances and setting up the dorms and the cafeteria. So as an entrepreneur, you're learning all these different aspects of your business and dealing with different professionals. So I was at Stanford for 6 years. And then I was having a family, and I had 3 kids, and I ended up stepping away from coaching for about 7 years or so. I wasn't working; I was doing volunteer stuff, and then I got back into the world of academia, and I went back to school and got my master's in writing, because I've always loved writing and wanted to be a good writer, and that led me to my 2 books. But I sidetracked into a healthcare company, and I did that for a couple of years. And that was also people and relationships and communication, taking care of older adults and working with their adult children. And it was all on the health kind of, platform of taking care of people, and which always brings kind of attention to your own health. What am I doing for myself? But I was working 60 to 80 hours a week sometimes, and I was on call, and I quickly realized this is not my calling. And so I stopped doing that, and I saw the signs and the patterns, and people were asking me to speak. I did a TEDx talk. I started writing a blog, and then somebody called me and asked if I was coaching in mental skills, if I was working with athletes, and I had just gotten a business card and I hadn't officially started yet. And so I just said, well, yes, in fact, I have a business card. But I was creating my own curriculum through working with athletes and starting to write my first book. And what I did, I think, is, and this is back to sort of as in my childhood, is being inspired, is also connecting to what really resonates with you, as like what's important to you, what are you good at, what makes you feel good about yourself. And I realized that getting back to coaching and gymnastics after, being out of work, after graduate school, after this kind of side note, being in the healthcare industry, is I realized I can really help these kids. I know a lot about this mental and emotional journey, and I know a lot about gymnastics. At Stanford University, they had never competed at the national championships before, ever in the history of the program, and I got them to 9th in the country. So, and that was in a very short period of time. So I think what I was really good at, and I am very in tune with myself, is how to have that relationship, to understand what do you want, and I'm going to help you get there. You can do it. And you get people to not just believe you, but they start to believe in themselves more than they did before. So it really has been, I've taken mindfulness courses. I'm done all kinds of work with teams and athletes on not just problems with the mental and emotional side, because that's when a lot of people think, oh, we need a sports psychologist, or, oh, we need to talk to Lisa. But how to really work well together to create that confidence. And I think as an entrepreneur, that can really go up and down a lot. Yeah, you're nodding. Well, how does that relate to you? Just a little bit, Alex.
I've always been, I feel like we're a lot alike just because I'm really driven. I don't know why, I don't know how, but just that driving force is really potent, especially these days. But just having up and down, that's why I created this podcast, is to show that roller coaster of what it's like to go up and down with your emotions, with your confidence, and how you feel about yourself, how you look at what you're doing. And that came with me when I started like 4 different businesses in the span of like 5 months, just because I tried the first one and I had no idea what I was doing, and then it totally failed, and I tried again, I failed a little bit faster. So the more you try stuff, the more you go out, especially as an entrepreneur, I think the more your confidence is tested, but the more resilient that you become with it, the more successful you will be. So that's kind of my why I totally agree that your confidence in everything really fluctuates with the journey, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. And if you're stubborn, you're going to keep going. Damn it, I'm going to try again. Yeah. So I something else popped into my head for a second while you were talking. Can't remember what it is. It'll probably come back to me. But many challenges. I think that's what you were asking me about. When the personal side, I think, really affects all of us, right? Your relationship with your parents, your siblings, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a spouse, your children. These things really are the foundation of you as a person. Your work is how you survive, how you pay bills, and how you connect with other people and be of service in the world. But we as human beings, we really do need to feel rooted in our family relationships. And or if you don't have a biological family, is how you create that in your life, right? So I had a lot of challenges through my marriage, and I think what many young people may experience or learn from is that whatever drove you to certain goals or connecting with certain kinds of people or doing certain activities, whatever drove you emotionally to do that or connect, that's always inside of you until you reconcile with it or you learn about it. So I was so driven by wanting to achieve in gymnastics. I was so driven by wanting to be perfect, and you'll hear this a lot from gymnasts in particular, because you know the perfect 10, and you're never good enough. Okay. And also by male coaches. I had a lot of male strict coaches. And so I married somebody who was a male and strict and criticized me a lot. And I think that when we notice why we make our choices, and some of this you just have to go through it, you just have to live it and say, okay, this is hurting. I'm nervous, I feel alone, you know, what's happening, and get some help. And so I have had a lot of therapy. I was married for about 14 years, and then I decided this was unhealthy and abusive. And I did have a lot of therapy to help me get to that point to understand, but it was really hard. It's really hard to feel like a failure. It's hard when I had 3 little kids. They were 2, 5, and 8 years old when we split up, and their dad was not very involved. I had them over 80% of the time, and so, you know, that was one of my big challenges in feeling good about myself as a person, because I did feel like a failure, and and I didn't want to fail my children. I didn't want them to grow up, you know, with parents in 2 different homes and feel disconnected that way. So that was really hard for me for a while. And so when you feel like a loser or failure, that's not going to help you, you know, move in a higher direction of becoming, you know, everything that you imagine or would like to do, or connecting with people, you know. So I had to go through about 4 to 5 years of really hard, you know, emotions, and just being on survival. And I think that, you know, some people might just totally close the door and say, this is my life. It's just going to be a hard life, a sad life, you know, and you feel like you're just surviving. But luckily, I got to the point where I wanted to start writing, and so I took some online classes. Oh, this is what happened. So look for the signs, everybody. Is that a mom friend at my son's preschool? It was a co-op, so we would all help out, you know, with the snacks and the games and cleaning up and cleaning the kitchen, and the moms all and the dads, everybody. It was a co-op, so everybody helped out, right? And then we all sat around at lunchtime and ate together and got to know each other. So it was like a big family. And this was one of the gifts from the universe, was to be a part of this preschool, being a single mom. And this mom came up to me and she goes, "Hey, Lisa, a friend of mine teaches a writing class out of her home. It's really small. Do you want to take it?" And I just said, yes. Yes. And that was sort of what do they call it, an olive branch or something. That really helped me a lot, because I was so much in survival mode that this was a creative, expressive, beautiful connection with a few other women in doing something that I was very interested in doing. Because we had light casual conversation, talked about writing, and then she came up to me and asked me. And that started to give me the confidence that I had some talent, and also some real structure in learning writing skills. And then soon after that, I guess it was a year or two after that, I applied for graduate school. So I didn't have any money. My parents and family all lived in Southern California, so I didn't have any help. And I was like, I don't know if I'm smart enough to get into graduate school. And I don't have any money. Well, my mom just said, just do it, just apply. She goes, just trust the process, just try. And I went to a writer's conference and I started chasing down the speakers and the professors and asked them, where did you get your degree? Which school do you recommend? And so I do a lot of research, and that started to kind of buoy me. It gave me real life people who also got these degrees, who would talk to me and tell me, oh, you could consider this program or that program. So I ended up applying to 2 schools, and I didn't get into the one, but I got into my first choice, and Spalding University in Louisville, Kentucky. And it's what's called, and maybe people don't know about these. They're more popular now than they were back then. This was 2003 that I applied, and I got in and started in 2004. It's a low residency or brief residency program. So for each semester, I would just fly to Louisville and spend 10 days for a residence. And it's very intensive. And this is another highly academic, very driven people. You have to be self-motivated to be at home and do all the writing. I'd have to turn in 50 pages of writing every 3 weeks. And I was doing reading of craft books, and also, so that's learning the skill and the craft of writing. And I had to write critical essays. And these were not soft professors. I have to tell you, I was in tears trying to learn how to write very professional, high-level essays, critiques, critical writing. So that I could publish in an academic journal. So I got through that program with flying colors and crying intermittently because it was so hard. But you just have to, I was surrounded by people who would put their arms around me at the residence in Louisville, Kentucky, and we became like family. And I'm still very close friends with my professors and the other students today. So this was sort of like a gift again, that somebody, I was at a conference and somebody said, hey, I'm a professor at this school, if anybody wants to get a master's in writing. I didn't think about it. I attended a conference and somebody said it. And I was like, I think I want to get a master's in writing. Just like somebody said, do you want to take this writing class with me? And, my friend teaches it in her home. I went, yes. So look for these opportunities, look for whatever, and talk about what you like, because that's what led to the question, was that I was said, oh, I love writing and I love, and I'm reading these books. So as an entrepreneur, it's the journey, the struggles, having children, getting divorced, all these things are really going to be tough. But it's always keeping your mind open, being curious and talking about what you love and connecting with other people who are like-minded, who are also, whether it's creative or scientific or business oriented, whatever pushes your buttons and makes you feel alive. So I finished that program in 2006. And then I started a nonprofit. And that was about girls in sports. Where'd that come from? And that lasted for a couple years. I did the fundraising and the marketing, and we had a website, and we had stringers, we had young girls and teenagers who were writing stories, sports stories. And then I had a TV show. It was a local TV show. I wrote, produced, hosted, and taped 4 local TV shows, and I had a lot of help. And that was a great experience as an entrepreneurial type person. again. Because I had to have a board of directors, a board of advisors. I had my website people, my technical people, just a lot of things, kind of juggling all these balls, right? And that was 2007, 2008, 2009. I think we closed it down. There was the recession hit. Yeah. And all this being a single mom and raising my kids. So I was a little nuts. uh, and then gradually that led me back. Well, then I did that healthcare thing. So I don't need to talk about that very much. That was for a couple of years. I think I was working at a bookstore locally, and then teaching kids writing and I had an adult class as well. So the whole writing component from getting my master's degree, that helped me out. And so I kind of was doing part-time teaching, part-time working for a bookstore and meeting authors and doing events and that kind of thing. So that got me a lot more thinking about writing the book that I wanted to write. And then within a few years, I started my own business as a author, speaker, and coach. And that's what I am.
Awesome. I love that whole story. Again, that was just, you talk about just the inspiration, the lessons that you've gone through, and the open doors that we have to just be open to. Basically,
Yeah.
you just have to, like, again, be self-aware and to realize what's out there for you, have those positive mindsets, and just trust in the process of what we're going through in life. So I love that. And I think that's a great transition into the specifics of your business. I'd love to know, and I'm sure the people listening, watching would love to know the specifics of what you're doing with your business and then your books as well.
Yeah. So I do a few different things. With COVID right now, I've had to be a lot more creative online. Usually, without the home sheltering and the restrictions, I'm traveling quite a bit, and I'm visiting gyms. Most of my work is in the sport of gymnastics, but I also work with other athletes, volleyball, baseball, different athletes, track. But most of my work has been primarily in gymnastics. And so I will do clinics. I get hired for clinics at gyms. And, as an entrepreneur, my strengths, like I said before, is the relationships and the people. And, I kind of have that likable factor. And in person, I love working with people. I love working with the kids. And so we laugh and we have a lot of fun, but I'm very, very much a stickler about giving them tools and that they practice, they use them, and they start to experience the change, the benefits, and that, ooh, this makes me feel peaceful. Oh, I feel, or, oh, this, I could imagine that. Wow. Yeah, I could imagine that. So they're using their mind, and they're practicing these tools. And so for mental training and for me in person, that's, to me, very exhilarating. Then I work one-on-one. So I'll do groups and teams, and I visit gyms in person. And now with COVID, I've been doing team meetings online, so through Zoom. And then I coach one-on-one. So I have clients, I have athletes that I work with regularly. And we have, usually it's like a 50-minute to 1 hour session. Most of the time it's once a week. Sometimes I have one client that we've now kind of slowed it down a little bit to every other week. And then I have one person who I worked with intensely for a while, very close together, our sessions, getting through injury. And then now we just kind of do a maintenance where we meet once a month. But, anywhere from severe acute issues of fear, anxiety, to your mid-level lacking confidence and motivation, to a lighter level of how can we take this team, this person, very talented, and take them to the next level. Okay, how do we help her or him have that sharper focus, that higher level of being in tune with their body for accuracy and consistency in their technical performance. So the physical performance really is guided by the mind, and we program ourselves. And so even learning to let go of what a coach used to say to you that really kind of hurt your feelings or made you feel like, you know what, I'm just not powerful. Okay, well, baloney, you are powerful. And so and you can't just listen to that like one person said it for 3 years while they were coaching you, or 10 years while they were coaching you. It's kind of you get brainwashed, right? And it just keeps coming up. You keep doubting yourself. So it really is learning to recognize that you don't like that feeling, and that's not who you want to think. That's not how you are. You don't want to think of yourself that way. So it's how do you then, and it's a practice. It's how do you program yourself? So you have to do, just like you do physical repetitions in any sport. You know, if you want to learn how to do a cartwheel, if you want to learn how to do a backflip on a balance beam, if you want to learn how to swim faster, you know, you got to practice, 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 practice. It's the same thing with mental training. So they have certain things that they write down and that they repeat to themselves, that they lie down and they do the breathing so that they can really feel that peaceful, muscles totally relaxed feeling. Because if you don't practice it, then it won't be familiar to you. It's some distant theoretical, oh yeah, relax. Like if somebody says to you, relax, you're like, how do I relax? Yeah, it's how to. So in my first book, this is the mental training book, Focused and on Fire. In chapter 3, and this is for kids as well as teens. I have a college team I'm working with. Coaches buy it. Parents say it helps them be a better parent. It has over 100 illustrations, which I did. I sketched all the illustrations. And like this is a sketch of somebody relaxing, okay? Slow, deep breathing, and then you count. You inhale 4 counts. And then you hold it, and then you exhale 8 counts, twice as long as the inhale. And you have to do it a bunch of times. But chapter 3 is how to get calm and concentrate. And so there's 4 parts to getting calm, to relax. 1 is be still. 2, be quiet. So even if there's chaos going on around you. 3, take a deep breath and relax your muscles. Okay. And 4 is focus on right now, the present moment. Not what happened 5 minutes ago or yesterday or last week. Not on what's going to happen in 2 minutes from now, you know, but just right now. Okay. I'm sitting in a chair right now. I'm talking to Alex right now. Okay. So it's getting yourself calm. And it's so simple, right? But it takes practice. So I recommend for anybody who wants to learn how to do positive self-talk, how to manifest success, how to visualize, how to speak honestly, and whether it's with managers or a team or anything like that. So I think I got off track a little bit with the book, but go ahead and guide me back to where you want me to be here, Alex.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think that just kind of guides to the last. I usually ask a question on what advice you would give, but I think you really illustrated that quite well throughout this whole podcast. So I think I'll just leave the floor open to you for any just last words you want to say about what you do, the people you want to speak to, or just what you've done, how you've guided people, just to the audience here on our podcast.
Yeah. So I guess that's what you were asking me, is about my work. So it's the groups and teams, individuals, and then I do speaking and presentations. And I've spoken at, for instance, USA Gymnastics National Congress a couple times. This year it was virtual. And I've spoken in Canada. I did presentations in New Zealand last December. I was lucky to go over there and do some clinics with athletes, parents, and coaches. And it was really fun. You show up in another country and a bunch of them have your book and you're like, oh, wow, that was really cool. And then recently, like I said, with COVID, I've had to be more creative online. So I am using Zoom to do some online classes for coaches and parents, and just really trying to continue to expand athlete mental health. So recently there was, and it's still on the I think Netflix. There's a documentary called Athlete A, and have you seen that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good movie to illustrate what's really been happening lately in the gymnastics world.
Well, I think it is absolutely, and it can be hard for some people to watch. But I think the main thing is it's the tip of the iceberg. So it talks about the sexual abuse that a medical doctor, did on athletes, gymnasts, and for like 20 years, 10, 20 years. But what allowed that to happen, that's the story really that I'm involved in, is what allowed that to happen. And that's this power over, this authoritative dictator type coaching. And I experienced some of that as an athlete. That was the era, that was the time. Is, I'm the boss, listen to me, stand up straight, be quiet, line up, do this, do that. So you're a little soldier. Okay. That doesn't mean they don't care about you. That was the style, and that was the way they thought that you were the only way to have success. And that still has been, pervasive over many decades. So here we are now where athletes are speaking up, and not just in gymnastics, but many sports. But this, this story of the sexual abuse really has caught a lot of attention. And it's how did we allow that to happen, for that doctor to have so much power? And it was because the coaches that were running in the system, USA Gymnastics, sadly was giving the coaches all the power, and they were ignoring anything that took away from getting medals. And so now what we are learning is, and what is the big question, is how can we do this high achievement, this hard work, in a healthy way, so that we are really caring for this young child, these young children, these teenagers, that we care about their development, about their mental and emotional health. And that's where I am targeting my work, is this balance of mental training and mental skills for performance, okay? But it absolutely feeds into that inner journey of knowing when you start to feel nervous. If a coach yells at you, or anybody yells at you, and you start to feel uncomfortable, notice that. Maybe you don't want to stay there, because as parents, we take our kids and drop them off, but we have to also equip these children with the tools to notice their emotions. Your emotions are like warning signs. And so you got to learn about your emotions. You got to learn what the warning signs are. If you get butterflies all the time, why? Is it because you're afraid of something? Is it because you're nervous? If somebody keeps on telling you to do something and you don't feel ready, you're probably going to get hurt. So this athlete mental health is the most important thing. And I'm promoting this new program called Mental Health First Aid. And that is an incredible training and certification that I'm going to be taking. I think it's next week. It's a 6.5-hour training. And so they want the people who've organized this are Olympians and top level people in human behavior and sciences. This is overseen by a national organization. Mental health first aid, they want to make this as common as CPR. So, you know, when somebody physically goes down and you have to give them CPR, you know, you have to be able, that's kind of before the paramedics show up, right? So for mental health, you want to see the signs of these kids. You know, are they quiet? Are they crying? Are they, you know, and see the pattern. Are they acting out in some way? Sometimes acting out with an attitude and being rude, sometimes that's a mask to guard yourself. You know, blaming somebody else takes the attention off of you. So if somebody is always complaining and blaming, there's something going on with them. So anyway, mental health first aid is something I think is really important. And for every program that works with kids, they need to have some form, some program that includes mental training so that kids can get in tune with themselves, and also some kind of mental and emotional guide to help the coaches, to develop the coaches, so that they can learn how to, in a professional way, be able to know the development of each child and when to slow down and to stop, you know, the pace, and being rigorous with each child, when to slow down, and when to advance, when to encourage. Because empathy and compassion are definitely not part of, historically and traditionally, in sports. You know, it's like, suck it up. You know, you need to go faster. You're not trying hard enough. So empathy and compassion absolutely need to be integrated into professional coaches' development. So that's where I'm at.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
so, I love how you said that, making emotional health and knowing how to take care of, or seeing the signs of athletes, and probably you could probably use that throughout life, just to see those signs of people, and that should be as important as knowing CPR. That's definitely something that needs to be abundant. That needs to be, you know, you need to see those signs everywhere, like CPR signs you see. So I think that's awesome. You're advocating for that. And that's awesome what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much, Alex. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you and getting to know you a little bit. I would like to get to know you more and support you. I think for any young entrepreneurs, it is a balance. It is noticing, you know, what's important to you, how you feel your value in the world, and also to surround yourself with really positive, supportive people, so that you can keep opening those doors, or recognizing the open doors, and be in tune with, you know, what and who inspires you, and you know, just keep facing those challenges. Trust the process.
Yeah, so it was awesome to meet you as well. I love learning everything that you've been doing. If anyone wants to know more about Lisa and her information, her new everything, her book, and all that stuff, it's going to be in the description.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Can I show my books real quick? So this is the mental training book, Focused and on Fire, The Athlete's Guide to Mental Training and Kicking Butt. And then this is the second book that was triggered by the abuse in gymnastics, and it's Focused and Inspired, Keeping Our Athletes Safe in a Win at All Costs World. And this is primarily on positive psychology, emotional intelligence, healthy motivation, and how to build kids' confidence and self-esteem.
okay, I might go read those books too, because reading books like that in any aspect can help, like you said, in any aspect of life, not just being an athlete. So awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa, for coming on today. Really enjoyed your time.
Thank you so much, Alex. Good luck to you.
Thank you.